Hey guys, welcome back to the show where we discuss the truth of your psychology, what's really going on in between your ears. How do we get you to the place where you can make the decisions that you want to make and stop making the decisions that you want to stop making, right? That's the effect of a process that you need to be a part of. You need to envelop yourself in this process through which you're going to be able to get, control back, direction back in your psychology. You got to be able to manage your emotions so you can get to that point where you can make the decisions that you want to make and, in a sense, live the life that you want to live. Now, mindset may be part of that, for instance. That may be part of it, but I would say that's mostly an effect of some deeper process that you need to be a part of so, you can make the decisions that you want to make. The mindset is not the cause. The mindset is an effect. Now, look, I mean, if you come to a problem in your life, depression, anxiety, and you read a mindset book or a self-help book, something in that stoic kind of philosophy that comes from CBT, well, that comes from Stoicism, that comes from Buddhism, and if that works for you, then great. Maybe that's all you needed. Maybe you don't really need to manage your emotions. That's fine, but I think for a lot of us, myself included, we come to a difficult point in our life and go, man, I want to make this certain decision, but I find it very difficult to make. Or I can psych myself up and I can make this decision, do what I want to do for 5 days, but I can't be consistent with it, and it feels like I'm white knuckling, I'm just holding on, and it's exhausting. What's going on? Am I crazy? Am I psychotic? No, probably not. You might be psychotic, but most likely there's just a mismanaged emotional issue there that we just have to identify and begin to manage it. And then the mindset essentially takes care of itself with enough awareness of your fundamental emotional issues and how you are managing them or mismanaging them. Right? Your psychology is like this huge bed, and you lay down on the bed. Mindset's the mint on the pillow. You know what I'm saying, right? The mindset is just the surface. It's not really what's going on. And if that works for you, then great. Then you don't need me and you don't need this channel. But if you have some difficulty making decisions and you've been working on that for a while, then maybe we'll be able to help you. Something that leads into this, of course, is what I want to talk about today. So I got a question from a listener. Well, part of managing your emotions, I think, is connecting. Is to really break down how do you connect with somebody. Because I don't think you can do it in isolation. In fact, you go back, and I would challenge you, go back and look at all the mistakes you made. I could pretty much guarantee you that you were isolated. Maybe not physically isolated, maybe there are a lot of people around, but I could almost guarantee that there is a psychological isolation. You felt disconnected from others. I think a huge part of, just getting our mind going, getting our mind to the right place where we can make the decisions that we want to make. Like gyroscope. The gyroscope, or just the top, but it's just cooler to say gyroscope. But gyroscope, it's just sitting on the table, not spinning. You can knock it around. It is at the whim of any slight breeze that happens to come into the window, but you get it spinning. And then it's stable, and you can hit it however you want, depending on if it's spinning really fast, you can hit it really hard, and it's not going to tip over, right? And so it's like, how do we get the top spinning? A great way to do that is through connection, and this is what this listener asks about. He says, what exactly do you mean by connect? Something I talk about a lot. Specifically, connection with women. This seems to be a young man who wants to meet women. What do you mean by connect with women, and how is this different than what most guys do when they meet women? I mean, isn't that what we're all trying to do? If we go up and talk to a woman or we go out on a date, what else would we be doing besides trying to connect? Well, I think no. I think that's a huge fallacy. Most guys don't connect, especially with a woman on their first date, especially if they go over to a girl at whenever they see a girl they want to meet, they go over and talk with her at a party, and it's a mutual friend. A lot of guys, I think 99% of the time, guys are not trying to connect. They're trying to do something else. They're trying to perform. Right? They're trying to spit game. They're trying to have game. And this is what a lot of, typical game and dating advice is. It's here are the behaviors that women find attractive. So here are the behaviors you need to incorporate to impress a woman, so she's more likely to continue to talk with you. So she's more like, if you ask for a number, ask her on a date, she's more likely to say yes. Here are the behaviors you need. Here's how you be alpha, right? And here's beta behaviors. You need these alpha behaviors. That's not connection. That is a performance. And I think there's a lot of truth to typical game dating advice. I think there's lots of good advice out there. But that's just the behavior. And if you're talking with a woman for the purpose of, I'm going to go over there and display these behaviors, that is by definition not a connection. That is, I want to impress you. I am trying to perform for you, which is its own problem. And I think when you start to do that with people, not just with women, but people in general, I'm here to impress this person. I'm here to perform for this person. I just think, and you know, this is, I don't have a meta-analysis to justify this, but I just think when you do that, the other person just automatically, unconsciously slots you below them on the social hierarchy. Because they just sense, I don't need this person because he's trying to perform for me. And it's a fantasy. I mean, it's a fantasy that guys are just going to read a dating advice column about, hey, you got to ask a woman out in this way, or you got to make this kind of joke. You need to tease her in this way, right? Negs. I mean, that's a term from 20 years ago, but I think that's still like part of what's going on, especially like the online dating community. And it's, you know what it's like? It's like in Dumb and Dumber, which is just a perfect movie on many different levels. But it's like in Dumb and Dumber when Jim Carrey is fantasizing, right? They're driving out west and he's fantasizing about how he's going to get along with Mary and his family. And what's he doing in his fantasy? In like his 12-year-old mind's fantasy is he's just making jokes. He's making these jokes. He's lighting a fart. But lighting of the fart, that's a distraction from the real sadness of it. Is he thinks he's just going to show up at Mary's place, make jokes, make everybody have fun, and then she's going to like him. And then he has a fantasy about beating up the guy at the restaurant, right? Because he's like making advances on his woman. I mean, this is what 12-year-olds think. And in a lot of ways, a lot of men, when they go out and start to date, they really have not advanced. You know, they become more sophisticated on the surface, but they haven't really advanced from that. I need to go there and perform, make her laugh, and then she's going to like me. And I think it's too bad because, this is one of the sticking points. Before I get into it, I'll just say this. I think this is one of the main sticking points that men have when it comes to dating is, well, probably the first sticking point is simply opening your mouth. You know, getting the words to come out of your mouth. Like, you have to first talk to a girl. I think a lot of guys just unconsciously don't see that. And they don't see themselves not doing that. But I think the other sticking point is you can get a girl out on a date, but then she doesn't want to go out with you again. Maybe not a big sticking point, but I just know a point of a lot of frustration. And it was for me for a time. When I was younger and, single and out dating, I was just like, whatever, like ninja jujitsu about like talking to a girl. I could get her number. I could get her out on a date with me. But going to that second date, that was a huge issue for me. And I thought, right, I was being Jim Carrey. I thought, well, I just got to be funnier. I got to say wittier stuff. Turned out to not be the case. The main issue was I didn't really know how to connect very well. No, it actually wasn't until I started to really get into therapy and really manage my issues. I wasn't even focused on girls. I really started to manage my issues in a healthy way that the girl issue just took care of itself. It just happened. I mean, that's what you're preparing for. You're preparing for you're preparing your psychology for these key situations. And you're preparing for a relationship. I mean, another sticking point, now that I'm thinking about it, that just came up because it was on Twitter last week. Another sticking point is, what do you do after the honeymoon is over in the relationship? I don't mean the literal honeymoon, but the honeymoon phase of a relationship. It could last 6 months, it could last a year. where it's like you're dating this girl and it's new and it's fun and the chemicals are going, it's exciting, and you don't consciously overlook her flaws and your own flaws, but it just happens naturally because you're having so much fun, well, that goes away eventually. And it's right that goes away. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the relationship, but a lot of guys take that as, oh, there's something wrong with this relationship, there's something wrong with this girl. Because why would I be looking at other girls now? I wasn't looking at other girls before. Why would I be looking at other girls if this girl is enough for me? Maybe she's not enough for me. Maybe she's not good enough. And that could be part of it. But I think a lot of times guys take the honeymoon is over, therefore the relationship is over. They take that to mean, yeah, there's something wrong with the relationship. But really, that's a call to connect. That is the only way out of the post-honeymoon hangover, when you really start to see the person for who they are, is you got to connect emotionally. So even if you are not in a relationship, it's still helpful to do this, not only to get a girl out on a second date, but to really have a relationship, because otherwise guys start to think, and I thought this too, well, maybe I'm just not built for a relationship. Maybe I'm just built for serial monogamy. And maybe some guys are, but I think most guys who think that probably are. And the issue, in my experience, the issue is, oh, you just don't know how to connect. Yeah, you can't do this thing that's fundamental to having a healthy relationship. So how could you expect to possibly have a healthy relationship? So yeah, let's talk about how to connect. Well, I'll just say broadly, and then we'll get to some examples. I mean, really what you got to do is you take your issues and what you're going through. I mean, this sounds maybe simple, stupid, but yeah, we'll get to examples. Is you take your issues and what you're going through at that time in your life, or what you have gone through, any fears, insecurities, frustrations, joy, happiness, you take that and you relate it with the girl you're talking with. That's pretty much it. And the way that you do it is, and the way that you talk about these issues, yeah, you relate with her, but also you take responsibility for what's going on, especially for any, quote, negative emotion that you have, like a fear or frustration. This is all great stuff to talk about, even on especially on a first date. Start it early. Start the connection early. I mean, there's ways that a man and a woman can connect on the first date, especially if they're not from, a similar friend group. You don't know any of her friends, she doesn't know any of your friends. I mean, there's ways that you guys can connect on that first date that, I mean, you simply will not be able to by the fourth or fifth date even, and definitely not a year in the relationship. You got to start that early. So when you're talking about this stuff, when you're connecting, yeah, you talk about yourself for the purpose of relating with her, for the purpose of saying, hey, we probably have a similar experience here because, spoiler alert, you do. You have a similar emotional experience, even if the concrete experience is different. And you take responsibility for the issues that you have, for the issues that you bring up with her. And in the context of dating, I think it helps to have some fun with it. Some at least levity, which comes from your comfort with these emotions, with these situations, with these things that you could connect over. So that's something that a lot of guys struggle with, I know, is procrastination. And this seems like a small issue, I think. Maybe it seems like, oh, it's not that big a deal. Oh, I spend too much time on YouTube, haha. Maybe it's kind of funny. But I think it's something that a lot of guys really take personally. And it really hurts them when they procrastinate. So the typical game way of viewing this is, well, don't talk about procrastination with the girl, especially when you first meet her, because then she may see you as like you're weak, you don't have the willpower that you want, and that is beta, right? So do not expose that part of you to her. But if you're really trying to connect and not perform and not put on a front, how do you talk about procrastination in a way that, you can relate with her and you can take responsibility for and you can have fun with, right? You could say, I don't know, do I have to go through specific examples? Like, yeah, sometimes I wake up and I want to study calculus, but I, watch YouTube until my face falls off. It's like the arc in in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, that's how horrible, or that's how long I watch YouTube, as my face just starts to fall off. But it's your issue, right? You're communicating like it's your issue, and preferably, we'll get to it if you've gone to therapy and you've really looked at what's behind these issues, and you can go, yeah, this is my anxiety. I have some anxiety about the stuff that I do. This is my issue, and I watch YouTube until my face falls off sometimes, and it's ridiculous, right? This is something I'm going through. How do you relate with that? And of course she relates with that, because you can invite her. The specifics are ridiculous to get into, because it really depends on the situation. But yeah, if we're talking about a first date, then just openly inviting her to relate with you. And if she doesn't, then that's an indication, because of course she procrastinates, because she's a human, and we all have anxiety. We all have this experience called anxiety, and a lot of times it manifests in this way called procrastination. So something else is, like, you could talk about is frustration with your boss. Now, a lot of guys wouldn't bring this up, because it means like, oh, maybe my boss is is more powerful than I. Like, if you're frustrated with somebody in your life, that indicates, or that could imply that your boss is more powerful than you. Well, of course he isn't. So you look beta, so you don't want to bring that up. But once you really start to manage your issues around your boss, what you're going to see is your boss and your issues that you have with your boss, which you may see as your boss, is really a reflection of your insecurities, of your own frustrations that probably have nothing to do with your boss or your work. So now there's some comfort around bringing it up, and you can talk about it. Maybe you can make a joke like, yeah, my boss is like Frankenstein. There's like Frankenstein's monster. He's like this projection of like all my resentment that I have about like corporate structure in America, and he's like this thing lumbering around, and oh, look at my issues, walking around. But again, this can only really come from a place of levity and comfort and having fun, or similarly, if you don't make enough money, like, you got to look at how that's your issue, and how your own emotional issues play into you not having enough money. And you got to get really good talking through this. So when you're out on a date, you are very comfortable with this issue. Now, there's a downside here, I will say, and the downside, or just something to watch out for, is the downside is you can get really good at making jokes about this stuff, really good at looking at your insecurities and making jokes about it. And you get so good that women don't even care about any glaring flaw, any glaring financial flaw that you've had, or that you still have. And she's like, whatever, he's fun, and that's all that matters. And that really works better when you're 22 and you can still get laid like crazy, even though you have all these flaws. That's what it was like for me. Mine is the getting laid like crazy, but just the just ability to make jokes about your issues to the point where it didn't even matter. But it's like, no, this is still an issue, Mark. Like, you've still got to pay attention to this. So you can make a joke about money, like, I don't know, like I have like the debt to GDP ratio of a third world country, whatever it is, just any issues you have with like government or politics, or like any frustration you have with the deep state, or whatever your issue is, wealth inequality, whatever your issue is based on your politics. So it all comes from the same emotional issue, right? Which is just, oh, there's problems in my life. No, I really like politics because there's problems in my life that I really don't know how to deal with. I really can't look at it, and so it's a great distraction to just talk about, whatever the Supreme Court's going on out there, right? It's just a great thing to distract myself from, and I guess this works with in a relationship too. Like, if you're frustrated with your girlfriend in life, it's just like really. Yeah, you connect and you take responsibility, but this presupposes you get comfortable with the issue. And a lot of guys, they get into a lot of trouble bringing up frustrations with their girlfriend or wife, and it's not because they're bringing up their frustration with their girlfriend or wife. That's what it seems like. And it seems like, oh, I can't talk with my girlfriend or wife about anything. Now, that can be true, and maybe your girlfriend or wife is a narcissist and there's no getting through to her. Well, then it's probably good to break up or get divorced. But a lot of the times, in my experience, guys have a difficult time connecting with their girlfriends or wives because they're so frustrated about what's frustrating about their wife or girlfriend, and they do nothing to process that frustration beforehand. And then they just go in to this conversation with their girlfriend/wife, and are they talking about what frustrates them, or are they talking about their frustration? Well, it's kind of both, and she reacts negatively because you have not gotten comfortable with the issue before bringing it up. And that's really, I mean, all this stems from your comfort with these issues. How comfortable are you with your negative qualities that typically a lot of guys would want to hide from women, whether it's, frustration with your boss, your procrastination, money issues, your frustration with your wife. How comfortable are you with these supposedly negative things, right? I use that word supposedly. That is the operative word here because it's only supposedly negative. The only thing that's negative, that we could call negative, is your relationship with it, your maladaptive relationship with it. And until you're comfortable with these supposedly negative issues, you're going to continue to hide them, and then you're going to continue to, inevitably, you will need to see, whether it's a first date, the 10th date, the 10th year of your relationship with the woman, you will see as a performance, not a connection, and the relationship just won't work out, and you won't know why. It just will seem like that's what happens. We just lost touch, and the first date didn't work out, whatever it is. But really what it was is you were not comfortable with yourself. Very, right, I mean, just the workout squat analogy, that's really more than an analogy. It's the same mechanism behind how we manage our emotions, how we acclimate to our emotions. If you could squat 315 pounds, or, okay, well, let's say it this way. If you could squat, if you're squatting 200 pounds, but your max is 205, you're not going to have fun. You're not going to have a sense of levity. And you're there, with your workout. It's like, it's not a fun experience. I mean, it's a serious, we just got to do this. Maybe I'll get 2 reps, probably not. I'll do 1 rep and then probably fail on the second one. But if you can squat 315 and you go to squat 200 pounds, then you're going to be making jokes. It'll just be a fun experience, and you can be cracking up, and it's not going to affect you when you're squatting, right? And that's how it is with your emotional issues, is just a thing you become comfortable with. Something that I've noticed in myself and that I notice in other guys is when they go from not doing so well with women to doing better with women, you would think, right, if you had no experience with that process, you would think that, oh, you got to do something differently, or your life is totally going to change, and then you're going to do better with women. But that's not the case. What changes from having 0 dates to having so many girls texting you back that you just, you don't have time? What changes is imperceptible. The change is completely imperceptible. I mean, you can look back and kind of think about it, but it's an imperceptible change. Because really what's going on is you're just becoming more and more comfortable with who you are, the good and the bad, and so you're able to connect more with women, and they're going to be way more likely to text you back, to go on another date with you, so you can ultimately put yourself in the best situation to create a healthy relationship with a woman who will be good for you. And so, this is what we do, right? In the therapy that I offer, it's really the psychological version of putting 100 pounds on your squat. Is we delineate exactly how to talk through emotions in a way so you become ever more comfortable with them. Not for the purpose of getting good at therapy, for the purpose of taking now your increased level of comfort, your increased range of perception, your Ken. You can take this out to the real world and apply it naturally. It happens naturally, and all these issues that you thought you had, they really begin to clear up. And you're not doing anything differently. You're just more comfortable with what you are doing. AnimusEmpire.com/schedule. We do free consultations. If you want to find out more, just go to my website. There's a bunch of information there. And I'll leave it there. Thank you guys. And remember that simply because you're out with a girl and you're having fun and she's laughing at your jokes, that in no way means you're making a connection.